Hi everyone, my name is Erica and I'm one of the volunteers with Paul and Stephen Spirita Centre. And I welcome you all to today's lecture, and I'd like to start by connecting with each and every one of you. So I'll invite you all to either close your eyes or keep them open, whatever you feel comfortable. But let's use this time so that we can connect with each other, so that we are able to bring our thoughts and our mind at this time to the reasons that we gather here today, that we can use this time to connect with each other, connect with our guides, with God and Jesus, and that we are able to think of the reasons that we gather here, the reasons that you've come to listen to today's lecture, that together we can give some time, that we can use this constructively to learn, to grow, and put into practice some of the lessons that we learned together. And let's start with our Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. So be it. Thank you. Okay. So now as we gather in together here for us to talk about today's lecture, and today's lecture is called God is Perfect. And before we can talk about God's perfection, let's talk about what is God. And today, as resources, what I'm using is the Spirit's Book, for those of you maybe familiar with the Spirit's Book, and those of you who aren't. The book is formulated in questions and answers, and it just so happens that the very first question of this book is chapter 1, question 1 is, what is God? Okay, so for me that kind of shows that it's quite important for us to understand the concept of God, and what God is about. Before we can even talk about God's perfection, we need to understand a little bit about what is God. And the question is exactly that, what is God? God is the supreme intelligence, first cause of all things. So God is a supreme intelligence. So in this answer, to me, there are two elements for us to try and understand what is God. So let's just break it down. Supreme intelligence. So the ultimate or the greatest or the biggest intelligence ever, that is God. And he is the cause of all things. So he has caused everything. He's the cause of the creation. And in his supreme intelligence, or in his ultimate intelligence, he's created things perfectly. That's how I understand that. So how has he created things perfectly? And what do we understand from the supreme intelligence that he is? And why should we believe that God is perfect? When we look at some of the injustices that we believe are happening in the world, some of the catastrophes that we see, some of the misery, some of the misfortunes, when we look at that and then we say, but God has created everything, then we would start to believe that he has also created the injustices or the catastrophes or the suffering that is bestowed upon people. And if we believe that, then how can we say God is perfect? Why will we believe in his perfection? Why will we say that he's the supreme intelligence? So he's all knowledgeable, he's all loving, he's all forgiving and understanding. How can we believe that what we see as a misfortune or what we see as an injustice, how can we look at that and think that is perfection, or that is God's creation and that his creation is perfect? So I think we need to start from the base. Take it to basis. What are the bases of his creation? God has created the earth, the universe, the waters, the trees, the animals, the air, the people. Everything in nature is the creation that God has created, the first cause of all things. So if he has created the earth, the animals, nature, could we say that that is perfect? Could we say that God's creation is perfect? I think if we just look at the earth, or let's just talk about the animals, the perfection that we see from one species to the other, the perfection that we see that is the day and night, the perfection of the sun, the perfection of the weather and the seasons. Everything has a reason and a cause. God has created everything to perfection because he has created everything that is useful for us, for each and every one of us to live. And we have been created the way he has intended for us to be created. Now, if we understand that he is perfect, if we believe in his perfection and believe the way what he has created is what we are meant to be experiencing, do we truly accept that that is part of his perfection? Because when we see so many things that is wrong, that we think is wrong in our lives, can we say that that is perfect? And do we accept that God has created that? Why would God create misery? Why would God create sadness and catastrophes in life? But as a spiritist, we have a bigger understanding. We believe more than what we see. So we believe that we are created first in spirit, then we are in body. And that we have lived before and that we will live again. And what we're living today is some of the repercussions of the things that we've done in a previous life. Because God didn't intend for us to be created so that we would suffer, so that we would see misery, it's part of what we have to experience. God has created us perfectly. However, we have been given the free will to live, the free will to manifest in our lives. He has given us intelligence for us to choose what's right and wrong. We have common sense so that we can choose the path that we want to live. So he has created us all the same and given us a perfect condition for us to evolve, for us to grow, and for us to manifest our true selves. However, it's the choices that we make that brings us to the misery, to the suffering, to those things that we are experiencing, that we look at it and go, well, if God is loving and if God is forgiving and if God is all just, why is a child born with a disease? We find that hard to understand. Because sometimes our evolution or our minds, sometimes our wording, the lack of words makes it that we don't quite understand the concept of God. Or we don't quite understand the concept of the supreme intelligence or the cause of all, the first cause of everything. So it's such a big thing to think about, that sometimes it's hard for us to understand exactly how it fits in our world, how it fits in our lives. Where is God? If he is the supreme intelligence and he's all loving and forgiving, where is he when I am experiencing heartache, or when I'm experiencing loneliness or a sickness, or when I've lost a loved one? We find it hard to understand that sometimes, because we don't see, and what we don't see, sometimes we don't believe. What we can't feel, we question. But I think it's important for us to look at, why has God put certain things in our lives? Because he has given us the perfect condition for us to manifest in that particular life, and for us to go through what we need for our own evolution, for our own growth, for our spirit to become a better spirit. Because we are primarily spirit before we are body. So in God's infinity, in God's perfection, he has given us what we need. He's given us the earth, which is a school for us to learn. He has given us day and night, so we can use the day for us to manifest and work and learn and grow and live. And he's given us the night where we rest, so that our body can recuperate and start again the next day. He's given us the rain, the sun, all the elements of nature, because all together he's given us so that we can live this life in this earth the best that we can. And everything has its purpose. Everything has its reason. God has not made anything that, even sometimes we might look at things, and I'll talk from my own experience, whereas, you might look at a spider. I'm an arachnophobian. So I look at spider and I go, why do we need a spider? What purpose do we need that insect in life? But even the spider has a reason. Even the spider has its purpose in life. Everything has a reason. And the perfection, when you look at a spider making a web, when you look at the insects that it's eating, everything has its reason. When you look at the storm, when you look at the cyclones, all those things have a reason, for regeneration, for cleaning the earth, for cleaning an environment. Nothing in this earth that happens does not happen without God's purpose, without God's permission. Everything has its place, everything has its reason, everything has come from God. Even the intelligence of someone, learning, somebody coming to the earth and creating a new medicine, or inventing something, inventing the light, inventing electricity, inventing a car. All those things attributed from God those attributes came from God. He permitted the intelligence of a man. He created the man. So everything has come from God first. He has given us those elements so that it helps us to live. And as the earth evolves, as the earth changes, we as human also change. We are experiencing major changes in this earth at this time. And we're living through this pandemic where there is a lot of suffering, a lot of people losing jobs and lives and loved ones, people experiencing loneliness, there is all sorts of things, businesses closing because of the pandemic that we're living. But even this pandemic is something that has come from God. Why do we say it's come from God? Why would He create this pandemic? And this is where we take it back to God does everything for a reason. This world is now rejuvenating. This world is now is moving to the next phase, just like it did back in the Ice Age. There was a change in the world. Something needed to happen for the world to evolve, for the world to transform. And we're living this transition right now. We have lived it before, and we're living it again. But we're moving on to the next transition. But God has given us all this. In His perfection, we will reach the ultimate end where we need to be. But we all need to follow and live our own lives and follow through our own journeys. And God in His perfection has given us that opportunity. We are fortunate to be here on this earth at this time so that we can experience what we need for our own evolution. And God, being the creator of all things, has created the perfect conditions for us to learn, to live and grow. And I think that when we look at the bigger picture, sometimes it's very, very hard for us to understand that, because we are sometimes narrow-minded and we live within our lives, within our means, and we're worried about our own lives and we're worried about our own life and how we are living. But we are part of God's creation, each and every one of us. We all have a place in life, whether it be for you to help, for you to be helped, for you to grow. We all have our free will for us to live life as we choose. But the time is now for us to take that opportunity and make the most of what we have been given. Are we connecting with our Creator? He is a supreme intelligence. We're intelligence too. And in that intelligence, we can connect with each other. When we are experiencing loss, loneliness, hardship, do we turn to God, our Creator? Do we look at Him and ask for strength? Do we connect with Him when we want to thank Him, when something great has happened or something good has happened? Do we think of God? Do we think of Him and thank Him for putting that in our path, for giving us that fortune that we've had? Do we remember Him in the good times, or do we only remember Him when we're going through hard times? Is He ever present in our lives? As our Father, is He something or someone that you turn to when you need Him? To me, the question about God's perfection, to me that when I think about God's perfection, I think about everything that is perfect in life. Everything from the ant to the birds, to the sun and the rain, to the night and day, the trees, even our own human body. How perfect is our body? Everything has a reason to be where it is. You know, when you look at a child, when someone's pregnant and they have those ultrasounds, you look at that child being formed and you think that is perfection. The fact that a female can carry grow a human being, to me, that's perfection. That is where it confirms to me of God's perfection. Because he has created this perfect being to manifest the spirit that was created. So the answer, when I think about God's perfection, I think about all of the nature that has been created. When I look at the miseries, when I look at the sadness, when I look at all misfortunes, I don't think that's God's creation. I think that that is something that we have created ourselves, because we need that for our growth. Some of the things we're experiencing in this earth is because it's part of our evolution, what we need to evolve. And that God has given us, allowed us to experience that, because it's what we need for our own evolution. As spirits, we believe that before we incarnate into this earth, that we have chosen some of the things that we're going to experience, because we know that's what we need, what is going to help us. So if that's the case, and we have chosen those things, then how can we think that that is not perfect? How that is not something that God has given us to help us? Instead of looking at someone who is experiencing some hardship as, oh, that poor person, oh, you poor thing, you've got this to deal with. We need to learn to look at that as an opportunity that God has given that person or yourself to learn from or grow or to become better. That on the other side, once you go through that, you would have learned something, you would have evolved, your spirit would be more purified. Because the ultimate aim is for us to become the best version of ourselves. And every day God has given us that opportunity. That is why it exists. The day and night exists. Because as we spend our day, we could have done so many wrong things throughout the day. But the moment we understand, we start analyzing and asking if there's more to life than what we live, then God has given us the opportunity of sleeping and waking up the next day and doing better. That's where I see his perfection, because every day he's given us that opportunity to do better. Because we know we're not perfect, because if we were, we wouldn't be here. We know that we need to learn. There's a lot of things that we could be doing better. And God has given us an opportunity every single day. When we sleep and we wake up the next day, we can do it better. So I call upon you to think about that, analyze your life. Think about, what do we do every day? What has God given me in my life that I need to either learn from, where I need to be thankful for? Because if I truly believe he's the supreme intelligence and the cause of all things, then anything that is placed in my path, I need to look at it as something that God has given me for a reason. If it's a good thing, I need to be thankful. If it is not a good thing, what do I need to learn from that? And it's very easy to say that than it is when you're physically doing it. Everything you do in theory is a lot easier than in practice. But we are given the opportunity every single day to make that practice better. Practice makes perfect, doesn't it? The more we practice, the better we become at something. So let's practice to do good. Let's practice to look at our trials and tribulations, not only as suffering, but also as an opportunity to learn something. Because there's no point you going through something that's hard, getting through to the other side and not realizing everything that you've done, not realizing all the things that you've been able to accomplish. all the virtues that you may have had to use to get to the other side. Let's look at our virtues. Let's look at some of the defects, some of the things that we need, our vices. What do we need to work on? Because if God has given us this opportunity to be here on this earth at this time, there is a reason. And in His perfection, He has given us everything we need. We just need to work. We just need to find what that is. And sometimes it's not trying to find out, but why? How did I get this? Or where did this come from? It's not about finding out what did I do in my past life for me to deserve this now, so I can understand, so I can do better. Sometimes we don't need to know the bigger picture. We just need to know that if we're doing this now, there's a reason. What can I do to make the most of that? And when something good, and acknowledge the good things that are given to us as well, because that in itself is a blessing. Let's count our blessings and not always look at the things that we don't have. Let's look at the things that we do have. And let's also look at those around us, because sometimes our family and friends are put in our path so that we can help them, or sometimes they are there to help us. So not always looking at that person as, they're in my way, or they're stopping me from doing what I want in life. Sometimes they're there for that reason. They're there to help you. You're there to help them. So let's look at our lives. Let's look at the things that we have as the blessing that God has given us, because He knows what's best for us. Just like a mother and father, they want the best for their children. God also wants the best for us. But sometimes what we think is best for us isn't necessarily what is good for us. So as we come now, I think I've covered as much as I can talk about God's perfection, but we can talk about, God's perfection, what is God, but we need to feel that within ourselves. We need that little seed of light that we have within ourselves, that we believe that there's more to life, that there's a bigger being or a bigger something that's bigger than us, because we can't make the day happen and the night happen. We can't make things be perfect. That's not a human thing that we can do. If we can't explain how to make the water, or we can't explain how to make the air, if there's has not come from us. That has come from a bigger being, from a supreme being, who we happen to call God. You can call the highest being, or you can call God whatever you like, a deity, you can call Him whatever you like. But when we look at the bigger picture, there has to be something that's created the earth, the universe, the stars, the galaxies, everything that we cannot explain. Was not man-made. We didn't make that. So God has given us everything that we are here for, what we need. So with the thought of that, and the thought of the blessings that we have, let's just gather again and come to the end of this gathering so that we can thank God for the opportunity that we've been given. Thank Him for being able to be here, for the family that we have, for the food on our table, for each and every one who fulfills our lives, and that we have the opportunity to manifest in this lifetime. I hope you've enjoyed today's lecture, and let's just use our time so that we can reflect in our days, reflect how we are living, and that we are able to gather again next time. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great night. Bye for now.